Welcome to episode 5 of the J&R Sports Lounge. I am your host, Joe Husar. This is my co-host, Randy Curry. Today is opening day for Major League Baseball, and this is one of the best days of the entire year. This goes up there with the Super Bowl, with the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament. This is one of the most fun days of the entire sports year. I love it. How you doing, man? You good?
For me, it's the best day of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, we get together at our friend James' house.
Yeah.
Every year. I don't think anyone's ever missed really at any point.
That's right.
So it's a big day for us. It's a big
Yeah.
day across America. You know, there's some improvement that the MLB could do to their whole end of things with the
Agreed.
setup of games, or to make it even better. But it's a day to get together and enjoy the game that we love.
Yeah, we talked about Jimmy Strip Club on a couple of our older episodes. We used to do a show called The Winner Circle with him back in the day. And so we get together at his house every year for the last, I don't know, 11, 12, 13 years, whatever it's been. You and I have gotten together basically for the last like 18 years at this point, since I've met you. We get together for opening day every year, and this is it's so much fun. There's such a renewed excitement about baseball on opening day every year, and it's amazing. But what I want to talk about today is not what you meant, what you were saying. We will talk about that eventually at some point about how Major League Baseball has really kind of fucked up opening day, and now they're doing this opening night nonsense the day before, and it's a little too much. There's just too much money, too much nonsense in it. Um, but what I want to talk to you about is you are a San Francisco Giants fan, right?
Yep.
And I'm a Mets fan, so I have another Mets fan here that's going to talk to us about a little season preview for them. But today, this is a day for you to celebrate your boys and your team. And so I just want to ask you a couple of questions about what your season outlook is for your Giants this year. What do you think that? All right, let's start with how do you think that they're going to finish in this division this year?
Um, I feel about the same as I normally do. Because they tend to get some pitchers from other teams that have kind of met the end of their road with their team, and they do good to improve their status. And a lot of times they move on to do well elsewhere. They did good with Verlander, they did good with Gosman, they've done good with other players. But it's more of the same. It's Molly, it's uh, Hauser. Adrian Hauser's on our team.
I have to tell you, I know you're giving your preview here of the starting rotation, but I really don't like Adrian Hauser. I think he is one of the most overrated players, and he's not even overrated. He's just, in my opinion, he's not a good player.
But
And he's been bouncing around from team to team for a long time. I just don't like him as a player.
But the way that the Giants have been able to keep up in some way, even though their lineup has been kind of poor for a while, they've tried to get some free agents to come in, like Harper, Giancarlo Stanton, others, and no one wants to go there. It's probably a bad place to hit.
Willie Adames came.
Yeah, I mean,
Rafael Devers came.
right. I mean, that was through trade. I'm not sure if he would.
Well, he signed an extension, did he not? Or
That's true. It's true.
So he wanted to stay.
I mean, I do feel that the team is appealing once you're there, but I feel like, especially a hitter, they don't really want to go there.
Why is that? I wonder why. I mean, they made a big deal to Judge, obviously, and everybody knew he was going to resign with the Yankees. That's not really any kind of a surprise in any way.
Right.
But I mean, they do go after big time free agents. They just can't land a lot of the good ones, the big name ones. Not that Willie Adames isn't a good player.
It happens year after year, and almost the fact that it didn't happen this year, like we didn't hear about them pursuing Kyle Tucker, who went to the Dodgers of all teams, like they weren't even in the mix. It almost makes it feel like this is a year that they don't even expect to compete.
Yeah.
Like they got their Devers piece last year, and they're cool with that. The back half of the lineup is not good. I mean, there's some people on there that would not be on other squads at all. They like the catcher, our catcher, I want to say, Tim's neighbor, but we'll talk about that another time.
Pat Bailey, yep.
But he can't hit. I mean, that's a big hole. He can't hit at all. He hasn't been able to hit since the early part of his career. They found him out. He hasn't made the adjustments. I don't have that much confidence that he will until he does it.
Yeah.
At least a little bit, show
Yeah.
something. Uh, the back half of their lineup has Harrison Bader, a retread that they're hoping
But
will
again, another defensive guy
ignite.
like Pat Bailey,
Right.
right?
So they got good defenders. They got a decent front half of the lineup. I like Chapman. Ramos. I don't like being in a prominent spot in the lineup. He'd be better at 7 or 8. He's a guy that gets hot. But for him to be like at the top part of the lineup, I think we expected more out of Jung Ho Lee on the offensive side. He really hasn't done much. And then you wonder if a lot of that's just the park. It's a hard place to hit. It's discouraging. Players have played there and had bad numbers and then gone elsewhere and done well.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
reverse has happened on the pitching side of things,
Yeah.
where they've come in, had their careers take off after they leave.
So, all right. So you've given me a lot of negatives. What are some of the
Right.
positives that you think that are happening for the Giants
Um.
this year? Like, I mean, listen, that division is obviously very tough, right? They have the Dodgers, who are perennial champions at this point. They have the perennial MVP in Otani. They
Mhm.
have one of the best first basemen in baseball. They have one of the best shortstop slash outfielders in baseball in Mookie Betts. I mean, they just signed Kyle Tucker. They got Edwin Diaz. Like, they just get stronger and stronger every year. You have the Padres in the same division. I mean, the Rockies are always going to be trash, so you guys can kind of walk all over them here at this point. But like, what is your realistic outlook? What are some positives that you're taking out of this team this year?
Um. I do like that we have a piece in the lineup that's a guy that you can actually build around. I think having uh, Raphael there makes it better for Chapman. I think it makes it better for Adamas. There's not as much pressure on him on those players who are both of the streaky type. Both of them can get really hot and both can get cold for a long time. So it's nice to have another guy that's a bigger impact bat.
Yeah.
In there to alleviate that sort of role for them, so they're not the main guys. It just I feel like it just peters out after them.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that there's going to be much at the back half of the lineup, and I think the same's true of the pitching. I know you asked me to be positive.
You're definitely not being positive at all.
Maybe it's because Webb was shelled last night.
Sure.
Perhaps I'm not
Sure.
sure, but
Not a great start against the Yankees. Sure.
I don't expect that to continue. I do like their staff as far as the pitching is concerned on some level. I think Webb is a viable one, barely, but a viable one. He'd be a great two. I think Ray still has some gas in the tank. There's potential that he'll kind of start to fall off a little bit, but overall, I haven't seen that.
I mean,
I
he's
have
still a power
confidence in
pitcher,
him.
right? He's still going to get you your strikeouts. He's going to
Mhm.
overwhelm some lineups from here and there. Like, it's not like he's good. He's just an average pitcher. He is well above average from
Right.
his power perspective as a pitcher.
And he's going to get some innings, and I
Yeah.
feel like the Giants have helped him improve overall. I feel like he goes deeper into games. He might not
Mhm.
get well over the amount of Ks per innings pitched like he used to. He
Yeah.
might be about 1-to-1 ratio now, but I feel like he's a good guy to have in there. I'd rather him be our third best pitcher instead of our second best pitcher.
And their rotation lines up to be that exactly, right? Like,
Right.
he's in kind of the middle of the rotation type of guy, even though he's still an above average pitcher.
Right.
Um, so like, if I were to gauge the Giants' outlook just based on what you're telling me here, you basically sound like a sub 500 team.
Yeah, I would bet the under, but they are going to be a scrappy team because they're vets. There's
Yeah.
a lot of players there that have confidence. There's good leadership there. Um, I don't really know what to expect from their manager yet,
Sure.
but I think from all the interviews and everything, I feel like he's going to fill the role well.
Sure.
I feel like it's a good guy to have for the long haul as far as the trajectory of the organization. I feel like it'd be better to kind of invest in the future, knowing that the Dodgers have all this money that's being deferred later in these careers of players, and they're locking in now to have the best possible lineup.
Yeah.
I feel like perhaps we need to just acknowledge that on
Mhm.
some level, maybe try to catch lightning in a bottle, for the sake of the fans and to put up a fight, but always keep the main thing to prepare for the future and even prepare for a certain set of years, that you feel will be like a sweet spot. Have a long
Sure.
term plan and not just try to regroup every year. Try to
Yeah.
hit Bryce Eldridge at the right time. Try to
Yeah.
hit. They just had a good draft pick. I think's a middle infielder
Hmm.
recently.
Yeah.
Try to get the timing right on those things. Lock players up when they can, once they see that they have it.
Yeah.
As far as like a guy that you want to be there long term, and just be smart. About the people that you let in.
Hmm.
Make sure it's character. Make sure that
Yeah.
it's because you're gonna have to
But character
win
only
the
goes
way
so
that
far,
we
like
did before. Like we won three and not too long ago without having a great lineup, without having great pitching, but good pitching.
I mean, if you really go back to those years, I mean, the pitching was pretty good, right? Like Mad Bum and Lincecum
Lincecum.
and was Barry Zito on any of those teams?
Matt Cain
Matt
was
Cain,
around
right,
then.
doing that
Yeah,
perfect game. Like Buster Posey in the lineup. I mean, like he's the only one that comes to mind right now. But I mean, they had a solid enough lineup, but they had really good pitching during those years.
and they had timely hitting.
Yeah,
Like they're guys that knew how to take at bats. They
but
were
there,
they were
listen,
good at taking at bats.
there also wasn't a juggernaut like the Dodgers in your division at the time,
Right.
and there also wasn't. The Padres are always a threat. Arizona. I don't really like them this year, but I mean, they have a little bit of pop here and there. Without a Eugenio Suarez, they're not as
Right.
great. Um, so I know we did our prediction show in episode 4 for our over unders for wins, and I believe the Giants were right at 500. I think they were like
Okay.
81 and a half, right?
Okay.
And I feel like you may have gone under,
Oh, really?
or you may have just gone over, but I think maybe we both also said that if they go over, like I cannot see the Giants being an under 500 team because they've had such a steady history of being a good team,
Right.
or maybe not a good team, but just a good enough team to
Hmm.
be over 500 and like compete every year. So like I think I picked them to have about like that 83 win range, which honestly last year would have gotten them into the playoffs.
Hmm.
The Mets and the Reds tied uh, at 83 wins for the final wild card spot.
Right.
But I just can't see the Giants having an under 500 year because they always figure out a way to get it done.
But like we saw last night, it was uncharacteristic. I know it's the opening day and everything, but they didn't really look like a Giants team that I'm used to
Yeah,
watching. They weren't disciplined. There were mistakes. There were throws that should not have been made that led to runs.
sure,
Just
sure.
like things that are like that can allow you to get into your head. And I think over the long course of the season, you see the juggernaut that is the the LA Dodgers, and you're falling behind. You don't really have like the depth. Like if there's
Sure.
injuries or anything like that, you don't have the ability to overcome them. You know, Casey Schmidt is in the lineup.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not. It's not a team that there's a lot of like Chicago White Sox and Nationals involved in that
Oof.
team.
Yeah.
There's some good players that have been there and done that
Yeah.
that can kind of galvanize the troops, but in general, I feel like there's a lot of holes that are going to be
Yeah.
really hard to overcome.
Well, before we end this section talking about the Giants specifically, give me one bold prediction for the Giants this year. One big thing that you think will happen, or something really bold.
Hmm. So I know I said a lot of bad things about the Giants. Um,
For sure.
this one's a good thing. I did allude to the fact I think that their lineup is top heavy.
Sure.
I like the top of their lineup. I think that this is bold. I predict that Matt Chapman, Rafael Devers, and Willie Adames will combine for over 100 home runs.
You think that's really bold? That's like 30
I,
home runs
I
each,
think if you
basically.
play half of your games where they play, in my opinion, that's bold. Should I?
All right. No, that's good. That's a
I
good
mean,
one.
that's
I mean,
about
that's a good one.
almost like all of them have to hit over 30.
It's difficult for a team to have three hitters that hit 30 home runs, and I mean, in all honesty, none of those guys are gonna hit like 40. So
I
they all have to like basically average like around the same number.
And they all have to work to get there.
Yeah.
Like maybe Devers or Chapman. It's not like outlandish.
Yeah.
But they all have to like have a good year.
Yeah.
In order to get there.
All right. Well, that's our San Francisco Giants wrap up for this year. So let's see how that goes. Let's see if those three guys hit 100 home runs this year. We'll see. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right.
All right,
Thanks.
man. Thanks.
All right, welcome back to the J&R Sports Lounge. We'll continue our opening day baseball team preview with the Mets. I have Bill here. He and I are both huge Mets fans, so this is going to be a great conversation because I could talk about the Mets all day. You and I discuss the Mets quite frequently.
Yes, we do.
So we have. I mean, in all honesty, every single season for the last, I don't even know, I'm in 10 years maybe or whatever it's
At
been.
least, yeah.
We pretty much text about the Mets every single day.
Yes. Yep.
And so
not always positive.
not always positive for sure, but it's opening day, and it's a renewal, and it's a vibrant new day, and it's all positivity. Randy gave us a lot of negativity about the Giants. I don't know if you were listening to his analysis.
I heard, yeah, but I was only in one game though.
Yeah, but us Mets fans, I feel like we have a lot of positivity going
We do.
into the season.
Yeah, we do.
I know Pete Alonso's gone. And I know that, we've gotten rid of Brandon Nimmo and a couple of other pieces. What do you think the biggest addition for the Mets was in the offseason?
The biggest addition has to be Freddie Peralta because the biggest failing for the Mets last year was the starting pitching.
Agreed.
Now, of course, with the subtractions of Alonso and Nimmo, they had to bring in some power to offset that as well. So of course Polanco, Bichette, those are big additions. But the most pressing need for sure was the starting rotation.
Yeah. I think the rotation, I mean, so for the first half of last year, the starting rotation was probably it was not one of the best. It was the best in baseball.
Yes, it was.
And the second
As was
half,
the bullpen.
right. And the one thing that the Mets addressed at the trade deadline last year was the bullpen, right? They brought in three closers, basically, and that experiment did not work at all.
No.
And now they've gotten rid of Edwin Diaz. They brought in Devin Williams to replace him. But the starting rotation, in all honesty, really hasn't changed much except for the addition of Freddie Peralta. I know that they last year Jonathan came up and Brandon Sproat came up and Nolan McLean most notably came up. And now Sproat is gone, obviously, in the Freddie Peralta trade. Tong is back in AAA, but Nolan McLean sticks, and he is the number 2 in the rotation. And we're hoping for a bounce back season from guys like Sean Manai, from Kodai Senga. So who do you think is the biggest, like, besides Peralta, who do you think is the guy that needs to really step up in the rotation for the Mets to have a successful season?
Well, I'm going to mention the guy that you didn't mention, and I think that's David Peterson. Because the 2024 version of David Peterson was a rock. I mean, he was not their best pitcher, but he gave them innings. He kept them in every game. And he started off in 2025 the same way. He even went to the All-Star game.
Right.
His second half, like the rest of the Mets rotation, just kind of crumbled. So Peterson I think he's slotted in the 3 spot in the rotation. If he can step up and become that same guy that we saw in the first half of last year, I mean, that would be huge for them.
Yeah. I love Nolan McLean. I hope I think he is Jacob DeGrom 2.0. Hopefully, I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy. And first of all, who am I to put too much pressure on him? But
Oh, you don't think he'll feel it from you?
not specifically just from me. But I do think that that Mets fans do have a really high expectation of a guy like that to perform like a Jacob DeGrom. And I think that those expectations may be a little high. And I'm not going to say that he's going to falter, but there were times in the WBC when McLean didn't look as great as he did in the second half of last year. Like he had a kind of, not, I don't want to say a blow up start, but he did give up 4 runs, I think, in one of the starts.
Yeah, that's true. And I think you saw guys like Acuna just ambush his first pitch. Plus, McLean does not have um, his Mets environment around him, his coaching staff, his catcher. For a young pitcher, you don't know if that has an effect on him. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I'm not worried about McLean though.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some part of of his makeup or just some part of his mindset where last year when he came up with Brandon Sproat and he came up with Jonah Tong, and they all came up within like what, a 3 week span or a 2 week span,
About that, yeah.
and those guys had a really close relationship in AAA and throughout the minor leagues, and I wonder if there's some level of, I don't know, I don't want to say like some apprehension, but some sort of a level of, my guys aren't here with me, and maybe that like
Yeah,
just that comfort level that
that's
he had.
interesting. But everything you hear about McLean's makeup is that he's kind of laid back. He takes things in stride, prepared. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to affect him. I have to think it wouldn't.
Yeah. So the other aspect of the team, obviously, besides the pitching, which obviously is a big part of the team, but the lineup, right? So obviously it's opening day today. We watched the Mets game here against the Pirates, and we watched them hit against Paul Skeens. But just in general, there was a lot of Mets fans and a lot of just fans in general that had such negative feedback of David Stearns in the offseason, that, and then he
Sure.
started, because Pete Alonso's gone, because Brandon Nimmo traded. These guys are all homegrown guys that the fans have gotten to love. But David Stearns doesn't really care about stuff like that, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah.
And so he brought in professional hitters. He brought in Bo Bichette. He brought in Jorge Polanco. He brought in Marcus Semien for defense. He brought in Lewis Robert. I mean, if you really look at this lineup from top to bottom, it is stacked. It's
Yes.
stacked.
Yeah. Uh, it's a long lineup now. I love that you use the term professional for some of these hitters. We saw what an amazing at bat Bo Bichette had today.
Yeah,
Right.
13 pitches
13
against
pitches.
against.
Right.
It wasn't against Skeens, but it was
It was
against one of their relievers.
right, but still,
But still,
it was a great example of what you're talking about. So I think Met fans, whether they liked what Stearns did in December or hated it, they should feel good about the guy that's running the show for the Mets, because what this team has now is at least as good as last year's team. Um, I,
I think lengthwise, in the lineup lengthwise, I think is deeper.
yeah,
And obviously last year's lineup was Lindor, Soto, Nimmo, Pete, and then like Vientos and Beatty, and then you get to the
McNeil,
McNeil,
yeah,
right, who's a good hitter, but he's not a guy to rely on a regular basis, and then obviously Francisco Alvarez. But if you really look at the lineup now, I mean, their 8 and 9 hitters are Carson Benj and Francisco Alvarez. And I know it's opening day; those guys both hit solo bombs today, which is great. But I mean, if you're getting that type of production from your 8 and 9 hitters, it's just gonna make their lineup that much longer. But I mean, if you have a guy like Marcus Semien, who has had MVP caliber
yeah,
seasons, and you have him hitting sixth or seventh in your
yeah,
lineup, that shows me that your lineup is very long and it's
yeah,
very good.
absolutely, and not to mention what he brings to the clubhouse too, because I think some of the Mets quote clubhouse issues were probably overblown. If they win that last game against the Marlins, we're probably not talking about this. But yeah, Marcus Simeon, great clubhouse guy. Um, so I like the additions for sure. Now, will they have one guy in the lineup that hits as many home runs as Alonso did? Maybe not. But the team as a whole is probably going to hit at least as many as last year.
Agreed. I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Yep.
I think that they may not have replaced Pete's 40 home run potential with anything, and I think everybody looks at it as Jorge Polanco has to replace Pete's production. He does not.
No, right.
Bo Bichette can help with that. Some from the batting average side. Lewis Robert can help supplement some of those numbers from the outfield side. From the outfield side. All right. One question I want to ask is, what do you think the Mets' floor and ceiling is from a wins perspective this year?
Okay. For their floor, I can't see them. I can't see them winning less than 84 games.
So
That
a little bit
that's
of improvement from last year.
that's the floor. I can see this team winning 91.
91.
Yeah, and
And that would be a division win, I think,
I
in my
think
opinion.
so. Yeah, I mean, maybe even 92. I would, if you wanted me to predict a number, I'd probably go 89 for this team. But yeah, I
That's a
think
great number. That's a very high number.
yeah, but I think
Um,
it's realistic because of the depth of the lineup, the depth of the pitching. I think it's definitely realistic.
so you think that so you in your opinion you think that David Stearns in the offseason has added about 6 wins, which is I agree with you. I tend to agree. I think that they are significantly better than they were last year offensively, and maybe I'm not going 89 only because I think the division's a little tougher.
Mhm.
But I will go about 87 or so for
Okay.
them, which I think will get them into the playoffs.
Okay, I would just mention two things there. I don't. I think where the division gets a little tougher is in some improvement by the Marlins.
Hmm.
Personally, not to get into predictions, but I think the Braves are going to be a disappointment this year. And as far as Stearns adding 6 wins, it may not all be him because some of it is just internal development. I
Sure.
think some of that is Francisco Alvarez having a healthy season.
I think he's a key in that
Parson,
lineup.
Parson Bench, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so it's a blend of those things.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I think Carson Benj is an unknown at this point, but if he does what he did today on opening day, I mean, the future is bright, obviously.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. With those 6 wins too, we didn't even talk about Peralta. Right. So, but that is Stearns. Yeah.
Right. Um, but again, that depends on the pitching, right? I mean, if you really look at the rotation, all they really did add was Peralta. They haven't really the rest of the rotation is still the same.
Hmm.
And I know Sean Manaea is not in the rotation, so he's going to start off in the bullpen for a
Right.
little while, and maybe the injury comes up at some point. Um, but a lot of the pitchers that were there last year, I mean, in all honesty, they really, besides Peralta, they didn't do anything else. They're just hoping for bounce back seasons from Senga and from Peterson, and
Yeah.
they're not fully bounce back seasons because those guys pitched their ass off in the first half of the season. So the potential is there to do it. It just Pete Alonso. You and I talked about this. Pete Alonso, in my opinion, had some to do with the fact that Kodai Senga fell off last year because of the hamstring injuries, and like that may hurt Senga's landing point
Hmm.
on the mound. When you have lower extremity issues like a
Right.
leg issue or whatever it is, and Pete with those terrible throws at first base when he was hurting guys like Senga, like in all honesty, Senga is one of my comeback player of the year type candidates
Yeah.
because he is going to have, I think, a monster year. His skill level is there, his talent is there, his pitch repertoire is there, his ghost fork hasn't really gone away. But I think that he was a little bit nervous about his leg injuries, and
Yeah.
hopefully that is no longer a case.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. And as far as Pete's throws, I am not going to have to look between my fingers next time our first baseman has to make a throw this year.
God, the thing is we the Mets have a new first baseman who's really never played first base before in Polanco, and they're gonna rotate him with Vientos and possibly Beatty a little bit. But I still don't think that they're gonna have the same issues that they had with Pete.
Totally agree.
So,
Yeah. I mean,
um,
I mean, Pete had some pluses. He was great on balls in the dirt.
oh, no doubt.
He could field ground balls as well as probably anybody else. But Polanco is going to do that at least. So there's going to be improvement there.
Yeah, you're putting a shortstop basically
Right.
in a first base.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are athletes. All right. I know I asked you about your ceiling and floor for the Mets win number wise. What do you think that their ceiling and floor is from a playoff to World Series type potential is?
Okay. I trying to be objective when I say this. I don't see this team missing the postseason. Um, if they're healthy, if they make deadline acquisitions like most contenders would, um, this Mets team is, I think, for real as a World Series contender. I
Yeah.
believe it. I really do. And and if I could just add one thing that we haven't talked about is the bullpen has lost Edwin Diaz. I think Devin Williams is not Edwin Diaz, but Devin Williams is an excellent reliever. And the Mets are getting AJ Minter back. And
That's a
they
big
didn't
get.
have him at all last year. AJ Minter is a weapon in the bullpen, and he's a lefty killer, but he can get righties out too.
Agreed.
So he'll be back before the end of April.
Agreed.
So that's another big plus for them.
Yeah, I think he's the forgotten man in the bullpen
Hmm.
because we didn't see him last year at all and the Mets ended up having to trade for all those relievers.
Right.
But because he's coming back, it's like that's a free acquisition
Right.
without having to give anything up. You're already paying him. That's just a free acquisition, and maybe his work will be a little bit limited because of him coming back off injury. But that's a great addition. That's a great point, actually. Like I said, forgotten man in the bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he could become a great
And-
setup man for
And then
Williams.
you back those guys up with Brooks Raley, Luke Weaver. They've got some good depth there now.
Yeah, Luke Weaver, great addition.
Yeah.
Also, he's supposed to be the eighth inning guy.
Mhm.
But if you can get 6 innings out of their starters, then those four guys are a great, you know, bullpen spot for the Mets to win a lot of
They
games.
should be able to take it the rest of the
Yeah.
way most times. Yeah.
All right. So I mean, listen, I know you mentioned your floor and ceiling for their playoffs, but I think that their floor is at least a playoff team, at least a wild card
Yeah.
team at worst. I think that they're going to win the division this year. I'm saying that because I'm a Mets fan, but I do see them winning. I know Zach Wheeler's coming back for the Phillies, and that may make the Phillies a little bit better. But I really like the Mets to win the division this year, only because they've added so many really solid, like I said, solid professional pieces that are gonna make them a good ball club in general.
I agree. And the Phillies, they're going to be very tough. We know that. Nola looked good in the WBC, but one advantage the Mets have over the Phillies too is the Mets. We've been talking about depth, pitching and hitting wise. The Phillies don't really have the depth. They can't withstand the injuries maybe as well as the Mets can.
True. Yeah.
And they're going to those things happen during the season.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate you giving your thoughts on the Mets this year. That's
Can I add one thing?
Yeah,
Before we go, bold prediction:
give me a bold prediction.
Double A pitcher Jack Wenninger is going to blow past Jonah Tong and possibly be a factor for the Mets this season.
Wow. So that's a name I haven't heard yet.
Jack Wenninger.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jack Wenninger.
Yeah.
All right, you heard it here first.
All right.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate the
Joe, thank you. I love it.
Yeah, that's great. If you guys have any thoughts on the Giants or the Mets that we discussed here today, hit us up on the leave a comment for us on the YouTube page under J&R Sports Lounge on the Spotify app. Obviously, leave a comment there. Let me know your thoughts on the Giants and the Mets in general, or just your bold predictions for the MLB season, whether it's any teams or just players. Let me know what you think, what your thoughts are. All right, thanks, guys.